Welcome to Crescent Times, the home of diaspora stories on culture, identity, motherhood, and womanhood. We are a group of soul sisters in England, Switzerland, and Germany. Our souls first met in Kenya, where incidentally, all of us were born. We invite you to join us in sharing stories and finding new paths to thrive in our spaces in the diaspora.
Good morning, the two of you. So nice to see you all together. We had planned to speak about vulnerability, and we still will. But the thing that really jumped out at me is this Noel Clarke. He is an award-winning actor. He's a producer. Have you ever watched Adulthood, Brotherhood? That British guy.
No.
I
No.
will show you. So he had a really wonderful BAFTA award kind of speech. Is it last week? Where he accepted the award, and he said, the first time he got a BAFTA, he kind of like popped his collar and went on stage, and until this day he wondered, why did he pop his collar? And he said there were people that told him, shouldn't have done that. It came across as quite arrogant. So he told himself the next time he gets an opportunity, he will apologize for that action, right? Mm-hmm. The next time came this time because he's written so many incredible films. Mm-hmm. I have watched Kidulthood and Adulthood, and it's really like, London, Peckham, that kind of vibe, that feel. It's really incredible, and it's beautiful to see, obviously, diversity and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously here I am, I'm like, yay, right? Hey, when he then accepted the BAFTA a few days later, the Guardian newspaper came out and said 20 women, and now even more, have come out saying that he has inappropriately harassed them. Yes, so he is actually, the BAFTA has been suspended now, right? Yes, and the thing is, can you imagine what he said? He said he denies the claims, right? But he apologizes for any action that he might have done that would have caused, distress or harm to anyone else. But he denies, right? But he denies doing those things. But more women are coming out now, and they even now said that during acting school, there's an acting class or whatever he had organized, and guess what? He was secretly filming kind of, women, telling them, just take your clothes off, as a means of overcoming that, that feeling of anxiety of acting, getting in the skin. But he was filming them, and so it's like, I mean, what do you think about that? Because we're speaking about vulnerability, we're talking about safety, and the idea was that women should feel safe in an environment to practice something like acting or undressing for a bedroom scene in a safe environment. Imagine the kind of paradox. And I think this is, what I really do wonder, because here is also what he said, is that he's accepting the BAFTA in his speech for the underrepresented. So it's kind of like, okay, but women are also, and you have done this for, so it's like, how privilege speaks. I just thought, let me put it out there. What do you ladies think? Can I start with you, Winkate? I saw
you know. That's a different, I mean, we're living in a climate where such things are not acceptable. It's not like they should have ever been acceptable. And I'm glad that men are being held responsible and accountable for their actions, not only now, but also in the past, because this is just to showing and highlighting again that this is not acceptable. Like, it's kind of hypocrisy on one hand to be promoting the underrepresented, but at the same time exploiting the underrepresented simply because they're women. Like, I feel like there's something that needs to change in the way,
yes,
especially within the media. I've heard of so many cases where it's seen as the norm, you know, just to harass women under the table, and people are even trained to accept it, whether it's little young actors and actresses. So I feel like this exploitation of actresses or even actors, it's wrong, and people should be held accountable for it.
Totally. As even after, you know, Harvey Weinstein, and we're having to deal with this. You know, there's this article that you wrote, Joanne, for Black and I thought it was also very interesting because you were highlighting the, you know, prejudice and discrimination in the development sector. And I find that it's also kind of, you know, it's so interesting how, you know, how you are saying, like, people with power. I think we're also talking about the power dynamics. When you have power, you often don't, and it's funny because it's so twisted, right? Because here you are representing and wanting to stand up for those who are unrepresented, and then you yourself, you go and just, I don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, Joanne, when you were writing that, could you please expound on, or can you see a correlation?
Yeah, it basically touches on to that idea of, you know, being in a position of power and then taking advantage of that. And, you know, in the charity sector, a lot of the times people go into the communities that they're working with good intentions, and then what happens, like, you know, with the Oxfam sex scandal, they basically took advantage again of the women who are, you know, who are meant to be part of the programs that they're actually supporting. So it's sort of like the same concept as what Wincase has just saying, you know, has just said, you know, an exploitation of the very vulnerable. And for this story about Noel Clarke, what kind of made me feel a little bit better is when I read that that the award has been withdrawn from him, because I was like, no, like that's the first thing, you know, when I saw the message, I was like, no, he cannot be put on a pedestal and then be awarded for this kind of behavior. I mean, what are we saying? You know, what kind of messages are we trying to reinforce? Yeah, so that's sort of like the same action that I'm waiting to see also in the development sector. You know, it gets a lot of lip service in terms of organizations speaking out against it, but like the structures which enable this power to be performed and to be exercised, we're so far from changing that, and from even just being ready to see that we need to change that. You know, there's talk about it, and it's about time that this talk actually, you know, was translated into action. But we're still we still have a way to go. Yeah,
we really do.
Totally agree, because I feel as well, like, is it enough to say that we're revoking the BAFTA without really understanding the structures that are in place? Because, as you said, it's not the first incident.
It isn't. It really isn't.
It isn't the first incident. So why do we feel like revoking an award or it's not enough. Taking just the award away is not enough. It's not going to really treat the root cause, the root problem of the issue. It's just going to fix it temporarily, and people might feel like it's a slap on the hand, don't do it again, kind of thing. But it's not really going to fix the problem, because there are structures in place that enable this to happen, that enable people in power to feel that they can exploit, you know, the most vulnerable. Though, unless those structures are addressed, nothing is going to change. It's going to happen again, and then another person is going to be slapped on the hand. But there's no true commitment to really, really digging deep, understanding what is the problem and how can we fix it here.
Yeah. What is the problem? What is the problem?
I don't want to say it.
You know, this is why we have this platform, because we also want to sort of be, and this is I guess this is the problem, is that we can't say it we can't be explicit, and we feel like, which is also going to the topic that hopefully we'll be able to address further, is about the idea that there's no safe space to express and to even understand what is wrong. It's so like weaved into, it's like a spaghetti on a plate, you know, and you're told, take the white one in the middle and straighten it. You're like, okay. Have you played Mikado? It's like, where do I start? Yeah. Playing this Jenga game. If I remove one from the thing, it's like the whole world is going to crash down on me, you know? Yeah. My livelihood might be at stake, you know, my reputation, everything. Yeah. I just come and this is the thing, is the question is, if you are feeling vulnerable, right? Or if you are in a position, because really it's the idea that you are at the bottom end of the power dynamic, you know, you got the short end of the stick. How do you articulate yourself, or which environment can you find yourself in that you can be safe, that you can safely express your truth, basically? Because you know, imagine if you're one of these women that are told, okay, you've come to acting class, and basically you're told, in order for you to just let go of your inhibitions, how are you to know that maybe you're being taken advantage of, or maybe, you know, how do you know? Yeah. And even as a woman, how do you know? Or never mind, even as a woman, even as men.
Exactly. It's not just the women, it's also men. How do you know that you're taking advantage of someone?
Exactly.
Like in general, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to take an example from out of something that happened to me when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in school uniform, and then I was walking. This is, you know, Gitanga Road, like it's 5 o'clock. You're going to the petrol station to get credit for your phone. And then because there's a huge mass of people who are going back home, you know, the walking.
Wait a minute, you had a phone back then? Was it like one of those brick ones? Because in high school, the only guy who had a phone in our high school was Mr. So-and-so, and Mr. So-and-so, he had like, it was one of those brick ones, you know, with the antenna. So yeah. Like, where did you go to high school at what time? And this is revealing my age, that you had a phone. First of all, can we talk about the brand of phone? Was it a Nokia?
First of all, let me just make this clear. It was not for myself, the credit. I was I think the phone came later. But yes, I had one of those, you know, those very chunky Siemens with like
those ones.
Yes.
Oh wow.
With a big antenna, like it's so thick.
And then it's like tweet. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I even don't know how this works. Explain to us how you went to Gitanga Road to get credit. I'm so interested.
So you know, you get home, and then you're sent, because the closest place where you can get the credits is at the petrol station. So you're walking, and because it's rush hour, there's so many people who are also walking back home.
Yeah.
So you get caught up in that. And then suddenly I just felt a hand grabbing me, like, you know, my thigh.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what was that? Like what? You know, like somebody just did that, and then they continued walking. So before I could even look at the person, and it was kind of like this swarm of crowd, you know, and in that moment you just kind of feel like, or I felt like I don't know what just happened, but like, why did that happen? And why does somebody feel like they can just touch me like that? You know? So, you know, you talk about, you know, sort of being like, when I think of being on the receiving end of that kind of harassment, like I never even told anybody after that. Like it took me quite a while to process and to just understand that, hey, nobody has power over my body. Like I don't want anybody to touch me like that. Like that felt wrong, you know? But I can't say it's something that I was openly told about in the house. Like the same way, right now when I tell my son, your private parts, they belong to you. You don't let anybody touch that, and you don't touch anybody else's, So, you know, I in that moment when it happened to me, I knew that this is not right. This is not nobody touches me like that, Um, but I wish I had been told that also, like explicitly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of linked to the topic actually, because it's linked to the topic of vulnerability and courage,
Yes.
because I feel like most of the times, I think the times are changing now, but most of the times we have young girls grow to become women, and they're raised in a culture, not only in Kenya, but you see that in Germany as well. You see that in the UK as well, where you're raised to become women who are ashamed if such things happen to them. Like you should be ashamed that something like that happened to you. And it's mainly because there's this, whether it's in the household or whether it's in the culture, it's something like you're the one who did something wrong. You even see, like, now if you go online and look at the debates when it comes to protecting women and harassing women, it's like, okay, what was she wearing? Why would you wear something like that, knowing that if you go outside, people will look at you, touch you, call you names, whatever. It's always victim blaming and shaming. Like, you feel like even if I speak up, there's no safety net that will kind of protect me from what happened. The first thing will be, what were you wearing? What did you do to make the person, like, it's always like you did something. You should be ashamed of how you're walking around. You should be ashamed of what you were wearing, because that is what provoked men or whoever. It's not only men, women. You also have women who could do the same, to touch you, which I think is wrong, because I don't want to raise my children to think that they can do or they should do something to protect themselves from being harmed, right? It shouldn't be. I want to raise my kids to know that they're living in an environment that will protect them. Like, rather than telling my girl, don't wear the dress, don't expose whatever, I want to teach my girl, don't do that to someone else. Don't harass people. I want to tell my boys, don't sexually assault somebody. It's not the girl's responsibility to cover up. It's your responsibility to not assault.
It's your responsibility to have control over yourself.
Yes.
Your responsibility to control the way you affect others, and I have a friend who says you must be aware of how you affect others, like how your presence, you don't just happen others. That's the word she uses, and I really love it, because I thought, my goodness, are we aware of the impact we have on others? Like, even just your presence, do I make somebody feel does my energy make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel settled? Does it give you peace? Does it intimidate you? Does it make you feel like you can't be near me? And I love how, Sadhguru. I love this old Indian guy. He's a yogi, and he says the way we live should be with such gentleness that even the stone should want to be near you, that even everything that you are around you can thrive, and that you're nourishing. You're part of a system that kind of is like a healing. You're a body that you want to be. Everything wants to just be around, because you are a thriving, nurturing being, and facilitating that. And it's I guess if we can boil it down to that, then there wouldn't be these explicit needs to tell the boys or tell the girls, don't do this, don't do that. The fact that you love, it will allow you to live in such a gentle way, and will allow the people around you to thrive. I mean, it's so funny, because it's like, if it's your sister, your brother, if it happens to these people who are close to us, we're like, that's so wrong, but because it's somebody else, then we're like, oh yeah, but she was wearing this. she had it coming, but let it have happened to your sister, would you say the same thing?
Yeah.
So we need to, I feel, come to a place where that humanity really, we need to learn to become that pure human spirit, that allows the thriving of, and to learn how to speak out and speak our truth is such a, it's as you say, it's something that we need to learn, and something that we need to teach our children, especially the girls, because it seems like we are not taught. As you say, Joanne, you had this experience, you wish you were told. You wish you were told what you should accept and what you shouldn't accept. Whereas in some cultures, we're still learning, unlearning. We're still in the process of unlearning. And I want to read this thing I had come across. It's this guy I follow on Instagram. He's called Jeff Brown Soul Shaping.
Oh.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He says, there are two forms of courage in this world. One demands that we jump into action with our armor on. The other demands that we strip ourselves bare naked and surrender. Bravery is a curious thing. Sometimes we need to be brave, right? We need to put on our armor and just go, yeah, knife hand into the solar plexus, bah! Go, and other times it's like we need to strip ourselves bare naked, and I find it so, this kind of polarization of what is required is very difficult, because sometimes you'll go and there speak your truth in a place that is not safe, and then it's only by learning you'll realize, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, go on.
No, I'm just curious because, in our work environments, for example, do you feel safe to speak your truths? Look at you both.
You just reminded me of a story that I was reading to Elijah, and the book is called A Boy Like You. And in one of the pages, they talk about how before you even become brave, you're afraid,
Oh yeah.
And they have this image of a boy who wants to jump into the water, but he's really scared, when he looks, he's standing on one of these elevated things. I even forget what it's called. And he wants to jump in, but the message on that page is that, yeah, this boy's afraid, but he's still going to take the jump. And it's okay to be afraid and then to do it, because, the bravery comes from a place of fear, but you just have to try it,
Oh, I love that.
If
I love that.
If I feel brave enough to speak my truth at work, wow. Honestly, no. I haven't done that. And I think the one time when I can say I spoke really for myself,
did it backfire?
Oh, yeah.
It was difficult afterwards, I have to say. It was very difficult. So then you kind of feel hesitant next time to even want to
Right.
Yeah. You're talking about, safe space. And I'm thinking of what some people are also calling the brave space, because when I think of whether the work environment is a safe space to actually open up, I would say no.
Yeah. I don't even think it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Like I have a feeling like, I'm not saying it's right.
No, I know
that's the way it should be, but I feel like when you're trained in terms of what work means, what work should be, what work should, is never in line, like on the same scale as, you know, the place where you feel safe, where you feel like heard, held. You know, it's always associated with the place you go to function.
Wow.
You just go there to perform. And I feel like it's changing. And I feel that that is necessary, because think about it, you spend most of your time at work.
Yeah, it's your life. That is your life.
Yeah, you spend probably most of your life, you spend it at work, but you never have this idea of seeing work as a safe space where you can, you know, feel like you're held, or feel you're understood, and feel like you have a group of people behind you that actually support you and stand behind you. It's always frowned upon. Don't be, you know, keep personal and professional aspects separate. You know, never bring them together for the sake of efficiency and effectiveness, you know. But yeah, sorry, John, I didn't want to cut you short. Sorry.
Oh, I lost the train of thought.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
You were. But
I think it was matching though what you were saying. It really, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like in the development sector, you often hear exactly what you just described, in case that you have all these people in the headquarters talking to the communities, and they call the person, and then they're like, oh, so how's it going? So do you have that monitoring and evaluation report ready? You know, kind of like tap, tap, tap. They've got the checklist and they want to go through all these things. But the person in the community, maybe they haven't had running water from morning. They had to call I don't know, whoever to bring the water so that they could even have a shower, or they could prepare their child. Like, there's been like all these other personal things that have just affected them. But then to be given like a forum to also say that, it becomes very, very difficult. I mean, I'm not saying that people have to share, you know, what is going on in their personal lives, but I think it's just good to create that brave space where people can actually just come and say, you know what, I am struggling with this and that. I want to do my job, but this is what I'm also struggling with. Because ultimately you're going to do your work even though you're struggling with something. But I think just for that to be voiced, you know, I think it's good when you have that, because then you're not denying this other reality. Because this other reality also drives you, and then you know, I think that's how I would put it. I'm even lacking the words to kind of.
It's very difficult.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in because I'm thinking, actually, this I love this, because what you're talking about is having a safe space to express what you can't articulate and what you don't feel safe to articulate. And in this case of Noel Clarke, the way that actually the BAFTA was suspended is because there have been anonymous reports that went into the Guardian. That's how it happened. And if we can create places where you can voice your feelings and your experiences anonymously, where you are actually believed, right? Because sometimes, okay, you can come with a claim and people will be like, do you have evidence? You know, and it's already distressing for you to talk about it. So I'm loving the fact that there are areas where you can start, or you can express, and we just need to create more of these corners for people, for us, for ourselves, where we can say, this is our corner, this is where we can feel heard and safe, even if it means anonymously, where you'll be taken seriously and where something will be, you know, taken further. Yeah. Did you know that Brené Brown, she does these kind of she does these talks, and you know, she spoke to very you know, she found during her study of vulnerability that vulnerability, I don't want to say unfortunately, but if you can, the companies that allow for a space to be vulnerable, where they're not punished for seemingly saying truths and for failing forward, are the ones that are the most creative. They are the most innovative and most joyful. So it's like speaking, if you experience vulnerability and you're able to face your shame, those areas which we don't like, the kind of the guilt, blame, shame, those feelings. If we allow ourselves to feel, right, and to deal with those feelings, then it allows space for joy, for creativity. You can't shut down one side, right, and expect for people who work environment to come up with all the good things, and especially where the arts are concerned. I mean, can you imagine that's the area that you need to be the most raw, the most to bear yourself the most, and then you're being shut down like that. Yeah. So she totally, I totally agree with her, where she says that in order for the good to thrive, you must allow that space for that raw and bad.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that you mentioned her, because I was researching about her when looking into the topic of vulnerability.
Look, Tamara has just come and I'm recording. Can you imagine? Oh, you have to show them your face. You have to show them your face.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
Darling.
Wicket, you were saying?
I was saying, actually, Brene Brown is a doctor. She's a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Brown. I was researching about vulnerability, and there's so much out there, and what she touches upon is so relevant, especially nowadays. Not only from a professional point of view, but I feel like from a society point of view, also from a private, from a household point of view.
Break it down, Paka, at home.
Yeah.
At home. Yes.
Like, it makes it so relevant on so many levels. Vulnerability is not something that is just personal. It's something that is a societal thing. Absolutely. And you see that, and I wonder whether societies that are more vulnerable in terms of really accepting this state, because it's a state of anxiety.
Wow.
And being vulnerable is a state of, making yourself available to whatever comes your way, whether you're exposed to the possibility of being harmed emotionally, physically. I wonder how you can create such a society that is open to vulnerability, that is encouraging vulnerability. And I feel like most of it is really down to unlearning a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And
that is, again, is in itself is creating a lot of anxiety already.
True. You're like, oh my God. And the areas that we get to practice these areas are really our personal relationships.
Yes.
That is where we get to, that's the practicing ground. And if we have partners or people that are close to us that allow us the opportunity to practice these, speaking our truth with the how can I say, with the impact being cushioned, and where they just tell you, tell me, even if you can't find, my Mr. Man, he tells me, I tell him I can't even find the words. I don't even know where to begin, and I think, and I being quite, in touch with my emotions. Can you imagine now, even men looking for maybe a way to find the words of how you feel, and then not being punished for it,
Yeah.
So there's a proper shock absorber, because
even if you're punished for it, you still push through.
You push through. Feel the fear and do it anyway. That is what
exactly.
My Steffi, my sister, she says feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
We got to come to that place. Let me please read this one also for you, please. Also from Stephen Brown, Soul Shaping. This one is from Susan Freiborg. Bless all brave things. The prayer I cannot pray, the words that rest unspoken, the feelings that can't be named, the grief that bursts wide open, the cry that turned to laughter, the smile that broke the ice, the pain that was cut off, the poem I couldn't write. Life, bless all the forming things that escape or remain in me, those resting to be seen, and the other ones that risk coming out as brave beginnings. How do you like that?
Wow.
That is acceptance.
Oh, wow. Accepting something that hasn't been formed yet and allowing it to be created, even in its imperfection.
Yeah, accepting even the process.
The process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me the message that stood out is that imperfection, that there's not necessarily clarity all the time. And
Right.
it's okay when it's not clear, and it's fine to stay in that place, not to always have answers, not to always know, and that even in that space when you don't always know, there's still things that you can keep doing to just keep going until it becomes clear. And I think a lot of the times that's how things are, that's how life is. Yeah, you just keep going, with the hope and, with the trust that it's going to get clearer, and it does get clearer. Yeah.
Any last comments, ladies? We're coming to the end of our session, but I do want to give any space for any last thoughts.
Yeah, I was still in the flow of going, like I was.
Oh, you wanted to continue.
Yeah, we're
We
still
go.
going.
Are you still on the boat?
Listen, I'm writing down the points here. I have this.
Wow.
Pick one, Win Kate. Pick
Da,
one.
da, 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 da. Oui. Higher.
Well, final words, huh?
Final words. Moving forward.
Yeah, I think moving forward, what do we want if we are to move forward in a space where these kind of things still happen? Obviously, that you have people still coming out, the Harvey Weinsteins, the this, the that, and you just hear these things. It can be so disappointing that you feel like, actually, my children have to grow up in this environment where we are still having to deal with this. It can be really frustrating. But for me, the takeaway is really that to push on, and to remind my children that be brave, right? Number one, and also to give them a space where they know when you feel certain things that don't feel right, don't push that aside. This is going to be a culture where you learn not to dim that voice that speaks to you about how you, if there has been injustice made or done, you must learn to speak out. You must learn that silence can be violence. Like some people say that when you don't speak, it can be also violent. I tell you what, it's a revelation to me that is, that silence is violence. It's a real revelation to me.
Sort of like in the same light as you've mentioned, teaching our children to speak up, I think it also just starts even with the small things. Like what I try to tell my 3-year-old is, if you don't like something, just say it.
Right.
Just tell me, Mom, I don't like it. Like just to say I don't like it. And I also say, if I don't like something, I say I don't like it. And if I don't know something, I say I don't know. So try to model also that behavior.
Right.
But I think, going forward, with all the all the unknowns, especially when it comes to taking advantage of vulnerable groups or sexual exploitation, I'm pretty sure there's so much out there that is yet to come out. On top of encouraging people to be brave to speak out, I want them to know that there is a community out there.
Yes.
To just know that if you just speak your truth out, if you speak that pain out, there is, I promise you, there is somebody out there who
To
is going
back
to
you up,
resonate with that.
to
Exactly.
resonate and bring your truth out for you, or speak on your behalf to a wider and bigger audience, and possibly even more powerful audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. The community is there. It is there.
Thank you, Joanne. And you, in case?
My takeaway points from this is the journey is long, right?
Yes.
Like we have just started unlearning so many things. That the journey is long. We're just at the beginning, and as I feel a lot of progress can be made if we really are comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Wow, I love that.
I feel most of the times where people, accountability fails to settle in, and responsibility fails to be assumed, when people are not willing to be uncomfortable with not knowing, being wrong, unlearning, like really being uncertain, and as we know, like vulnerability is uncertainty, it's risk. And being comfortable with this is I feel what is needed in order to really change how we perceive ourselves as humans, how we perceive each other, how we change the dynamics of how we interact with each other, and even questioning the power dynamics that are creating so many problems out there. Like unless we're willing to be uncomfortable, to be sit in the discomfort, like
sit in the discomfort. Yes. Sit in it and take it. If you have been said, okay, there might be something wrong, just sit there. Let's take it. Let's sit with it.
And even receiving that discomfort with compassion, because I feel like the reason why people don't want to feel uncomfortable, or to feel, or shame, guilt, fear, all of this, is because there's such a stigma of it's wrong.
Oh my gosh.
You're not allowed to feel that. You have to fix it. Like if we approach those feelings with compassion, even towards ourselves, and it's so hard. I'm saying it as if it's so easy. It's so hard to do. Seriously. If you really do something where you feel like, oh my goodness, like the guilt. And sitting in the guilt and accepting yourself in that guilt, it can be so heavy. It's heavy.
Oh, it's heavy. The ego. The ego or the she-go. Lisa Nichols calls it the she-go. It can finish you. What?
I'm telling you. And if we understand, like, everybody is going through that, no matter what it is. And now just imagine you're in the public eye. Something like this has come out. Of course, for you, that guilt, that shame, whatever it is heavy. I'm not justifying it. I'm not making excuses. That's what you should feel. But also I feel like we should be compassionate towards each other. Like understanding that if the space is there to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, face the consequences, and really come out of it as a different person, as a person who has learned from those mistakes. What else are we asking for? I mean, that's being human.
I love that.
That is being human.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Preach it for the people at the back. Preach it for the people at the back.
Wow. That is what because I feel like what I feel is missing is, in many cases, I feel there is this necessary radicalness, like this fighting energy. It's necessary.
It is necessary.
It's necessary. But what is lacking is this holding energy. This caring energy, like going hand in hand. Most of the times is this fighting, but there's less and little of this holding energy and understanding that, people make mistakes.
Yes, and it's okay.
And,
it's okay.
Like they can face the consequences of those mistakes, and they should face the consequences of those mistakes that they have made. But we punish ourselves in a way that we're not willing to face the consequences. We're punishing ourselves for even making those mistakes. It's human. You make mistakes. Deal with the consequences of it, and owning up to, I did a mistake,
What is the learning? What is the learning? What is the learning point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what I would learn from it. That is more than trying to pretend mistakes were not made.
Yeah. The care package is missing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He summed it
I love
so
that.
well.
The care package. The care package is missing.
Yeah.
It's true. And we're not taught how to deal with failing forward, because failing forward is a skill. I think you have to learn that actually the space in between failing and recovery, the shorter you can get that, the more you can get over it. And actually, when you fail, the shame is the one that keeps you from it's something that the brain does. It's like when you feel shame, it keeps you from getting the learning point. So you can't make the jump from failing to learning because the shame is totally keeping you. And to be honest, it's understandable. It is understandable. But if you stay in that space, oh my God, it was just it's like a root that will make the whole tree bitter. You can't move on from it. Like really, you can't move on from it. This is why the older people those older people, I can understand them. I have complete compassion for them now, because they can never admit. Because if they admit to their wrongdoing, it also means taking responsibility. And who wants to do that?
Although, to be fair, I think it's necessary also for them to take responsibility, because it's sort of like sending your child to therapy, but you're the one who needs therapy. You gotta admit too. If you need it, go. Let the child go, and you go too. Fix. Like, let's live honestly as well.
Stigma is the one that will keep you from not obviously those two. It's the stigma. Do I want to be seen as somebody who has problems? I don't have no problems.
And it's the society we're living in. Look at, I think it's been said in so many times, and I feel it's so true, that we are cultivating a type of society where everything has to be perfect. It has to be photoshopped. It has to look at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, social media, how we display ourselves out there. It's all make believe. We're living in a world of make believe. We're really, pretending and covering things up without really showing the rawness that comes with it. The imperfections that come with it. And I feel like even me myself, sometimes I catch myself doing that. Like sometimes even stopping myself from thinking a certain way, because I feel like, no, you shouldn't be thinking. No, I should be thinking that way. Think it out, think it through. And then if you realize, oh, this is where I made a mistake in my own way of thinking, rectify it. But we start like punishing and censoring yourself. No, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to think that. What would other people think, and what would they feel about you seeing things in a certain way? Authenticity is lacking.
She said it. You brought up the A word. You brought it up. Now look, this topic is becoming a bit heated now, ladies. I gotta stop you right now, because we're looking like we're gonna start talking about what we're gonna talk about next.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop you right now here, because we are going to hold our horses on that note and bring this one to a close. And we are going to look forward to our next meeting, which is going to expound on some of these areas that we are going to speak about more, exploring authenticity, exploring vulnerability, exploring being brave, exploring what that even means to us personally in our motherhood journeys, in our womanhood journeys, in our being human, in our connecting, relationships and otherwise. We're going to talk about it raw. So with that, probably we'll bring this to a close and catch you in the next episode. Yeah.
Yay.
Love yous. Mwah.
Thank you for staying with us until the very end. Subscribe for our upcoming episodes to tell us what you'd like us to talk about on crescenttimes.info@gmail.com or hit us up on Instagram @crescenttimes.